Well, we're moving on up to the side, to a deluxe apartment in the sky. We're moving on up to the side. We finally got a piece of the pie. Fish don't fry in the kitchen, beans don't burn on the grill. Took a whole lot of trying just to get up that hill. Now we're up in the big leagues, getting our turn at bat.
This is just episode 2. Episode 2. This felt like a season finale. This felt like a series finale. Back to the channel, everybody. This is Rob here at Smirking Gun Reviews. I want to thank everybody who watched the first episode that I did. If you're liking what I do here, please hit the like button. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel. I'm taken aback. I don't usually get taken aback, okay? The last time I really got taken aback was whenever I watched Breaking Bad. This was unbelievable. Like I said, episode 2, there was so much here. This is just the tip of the iceberg. This is just there's 8 more episodes. So holy crap. I mean, I don't know much about Lovecraft. I said that in the previous video. I just found out that apparently he's a big racist, which would be great for why this is really important and fitting that we're telling a very black story. So, and especially with the way that this story goes. But this is episode 2 of season 1, Whitey's on the Moon. That was a poem until today. Another history lesson. It was great, and the way they used it was fantastic. The musicness was great too. It starts with such fun. They're playing the Jeffersons. It is fantastic. I literally laughed out loud. They're all having a good old time. George and Letitia, she's enjoying the clothes that fit perfectly. He's enjoying the library of books of stuff that he would want to read. It's this perfect scenario. Of course, it's too perfect. The only one who's not enjoying himself is Atticus, who's thinking about the Shoggoths that almost killed him the night before or were brought back by a dog whistle. So, the rest of this starts out as a basic mystery, you know. It felt like Get Out a little bit, you know, one of the other Jordan Peele projects of, you know, black people need to get the hell out of Dodge kind of story, you know, don't stick around, you know, it's trying to figure out what do these white people want. And then when you find out, like, in fact, they don't even say, like, let's not wait to find out what these white people are going to do to us. Let's get out of here now. But I would never have guessed at how big and how epic this episode would go. So, he finds out that his dad's not there, supposedly, that he went with Mr. Braithwaite to some lawyer in Boston, that Christina, the blonde girl that we saw driving the silver sedan, is confirmed to them that she's the one who owns that car. And we find out about Titus Braithwaite, the big old picture on the wall that looks like a Freemason, and it turns out it is basically that. It looks like a Freemason meets the Klan, except, you know, that the Klan had more colors than white. And we find out about the 1833 fire that killed everybody in the place except for one person, apparently, which we find out was from Uncle George, who that was. There's a lot of magic going on in this episode. So, like, a lot of things, like, at first don't quite make sense, and then they said, I love it. They don't make me they don't make me scratch my head for too long before letting me in on what's going on. But they all know that they want to keep us here, but, you know, we don't want to find out why. And Letitia and George have no memory of the Evil Dead moment with the Shoggoths and the sheriff and the vampire-like way that the sheriff became, they all started becoming these monsters. They have no memory of it. They know that they don't have a memory of it, but they don't trust exactly what Atticus is trying to tell them because it's all crazy. But they are being watched, and so they're trying to be discreet. They also find out that the car was fine, is fine, or somebody was working late to get the car back in shape. But there was blood everywhere. They want to say that it's PTSD, but I love that in a lot of shows they'd allow that kind of story to sit and fester, and whether or not they'd ever believe him. Instead, they just confront that right away. He's just standing right there going, I don't have shell shock. Okay? This is not shell shock. Then they find the stone. I mean, things happen so fast here, and I'm sorry if I'm moving really quickly. But they find the stone tower with the racist lady there with the dogs, and her comments talking about how they don't have grizzlies, but they have black bears, and that black bears are smart, but not smart, sticking their nose where it doesn't belong. She's talking about them, and it's just, this actress was really good in this part, but they're, and she gets her comeuppance anyway, so it's great. But they figure out that this place with the pig's heads in it, the way it's formed, there's a big stone tower means a nice big stone basement where you can't hear anybody, especially if there's dogs barking all the time. So they take the long walk back through the spooky woods, which we saw from the promo of the tremors coming through the ground, which turned out to be Shoggoths, and they're huge and they're massive. But right before this, Uncle George has this memory pop back into his head, a memory from Tick's mother about a slave named Hannah, who's the only one that survived the fire. Where he got this memory, we don't know. There's a few things going on that aren't quite explained. How certain information is being passed, especially through Uncle George, where first he gets the memory here, and then somebody guides him to the book that becomes important later. But before the Shoggoths can eat them, the whistle's blown again, and there's Christina, the blonde girl from the silver sedan, and the racist dog catcher, or keeper, whatever, the keeper of the dogs. And she wants George and Letitia to be put in their quarters while Atticus is sent to her father's laboratory, which I guess you go with him because you can always call the shot. But you see this guy played by Tony Goldwyn, who's always great. You don't see enough stuff. I never watched Scandal, so I didn't really know much about his character in that. But I like Tony Goldwyn a lot, and he isn't in enough stuff that I see anyway. And he's getting an organ removed on the laboratory. It's more like a ritualistic, table where you do a sacrifice. George figures out that Montrose was bait to get Tick here, but a door opens, a little secret side door opens that leads Uncle George to the book that's the Order of the Ancient Dawn, which becomes this huge part of the next bit of the story. And Titus, he's talking about Adam and Eve, and that basically, as Tick puts it, when he named all the animals, everything got put in its place. Another thing that was definitely a knock to the way that people are put in their place and the way that life is structured with, white people on the top and everybody else below. They try to make it sound like it's about animals at first, but they're really talking about class struggle. They're talking about, basically, to me, Manifest Destiny type of shit, where you got everybody up here and then everybody down there. But it was Nirvana for a second, and then they talk about Eve and how she ruined everything. And it's for them, this is about finding the key to immortality. And that's what caused the fire. Things went wrong, and almost everybody died. Except for this Hannah woman, the slave. So there's supposed to be this ceremony at dawn, and they're just basically waiting for it. They were brought there, they were tricked to come there for this ceremony. Now during the night, before dinner, we find out that there's a spell put on everybody there. They're all in their rooms. At first, we don't know this. At first, it looks like there's a scene with Atticus and Letitia, you know, talking about her abandonment issues and how he won't abandon her, and it leads to this very sweet moment that they start kissing, and all of a sudden, though, they jump to Atticus doing Morse code on the wall. So at first I thought, okay, we just cut to a new scene. But instead, a little Korean woman jumps out of the armoire, or whatever you want to call it, the dresser, I always forget the name of those things, the big vanity dresser, just jumps out firing her weapon and trying to kill Atticus. Meanwhile, George sees somebody from his past that's supposed to be dead. So everybody is having these crazy fantasies going on. It turns out that Atticus is not with Letitia, but he does have a big old snake in his pants. Yeah, he has a snake in his pants, a big one. And so basically we find out that the guests, the other lodge members, are sitting outside the rooms watching this all play out, like in the little secret rooms, enjoying this for entertainment's sake. It's fucked. So yeah, this is just the tip of the iceberg. This is just the tip of the iceberg. So they go to this men's only dinner, right? And you know, George is trying to say, don't let them get in your head. They're trying to confuse you, trying to make you feel like, you know, that you don't belong here. But Uncle George thinks he's found a way out. And that cues in what he learns from the book. Now, this wasn't as gross as, say, the dinner scene from Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom, but when you realize that the dinner being served was the organ that was taken out of Tony Goldwyn's abdomen, that's the first thing I thought of. Although it was prepared very nice, very much like one of those dinners that you'd see in the movie American Psycho. The little gourmet meals that they give you with just a little bit of this and a little bit of that. A little bit of liver. So Uncle George gives this great big speech, and I thought, oh my God, what is he doing? What is he doing? This was his plan? But he gives this great speech about the Masons, and that in the book, The Order of the Ancient Dawn, it turns out there's a loophole, and he figured out why they're there in the first place. Is that Atticus is the direct descendant of the original guy, Titus, the original Titus who did this, and that his great whatever grandmother Hannah was the one who survived, and she got pregnant with somebody, and eventually it came down to him, and Atticus is the last descendant, which means that he actually has more power over everybody in that room, that he can basically tell them all to get the fuck out, which he does. But the power only goes so far. He may be able to clear the room out of a bunch of racist assholes that don't want him there, but Tony Goldwyn's basically like, you know, these people believe it because they want to believe it. I let it go on because I want them to believe it. But if you think that really this has any sway over me, it doesn't. He says, don't mistake useful for indispensable. So they go to get Montrose out because he says, all right, you need to tell me where my dad is, right? So they go to the stone tower where he's being kept, which gives our racist dog keeper a chance to be even more racist, calling them dumb animals. And I went like this, yeah, when Letitia cracked her skull open. I hope she's dead. I hope she's dead. But when they go to find Montrose, Count of Monte Cristo style, that's the sandwich. the Count of Monte Cristo, like from the book. He's gone. He's done and pulled an Andy Dufresne and Shawshanked his way out. So, and he's up there too. He's even doing the Andy Dufresne, like almost like, yeah! And they're just standing there like, hey, how you doing? Want to get in the car? Because we're leaving. And they find out that there was all, there's supposed to be this ceremony about immortality. And unfortunately, they run into this crazy barrier, this invisible barrier. Again, made me think of Evil Dead, trying to escape this thing that's basically a force that won't let you leave. And they start playing Killing Strangers from Marilyn Manson, which was a really nice touch as well. Made me think of John Wick, but that's just the way it goes. And they shoot Tisha, and she dies. And they cut away because they say, you get to decide who lives or dies next. We don't know what happened. I thought that was going to be the end of the episode, but it's not. It's still not the end of the episode. There were so many moments where I thought it was going to be the end. Even though I looked at my clock, I'm like, this still has like 20 minutes. So what else could happen? Well, they tell Atticus that he has to willingly, be a part of this ceremony. Tisha will be fine. George will be fine. You guys, they'll be allowed to leave. Basically, Atticus is giving himself up over to these people that want to open up this portal to the Garden of Eden to find immortality. Probably, I guess, the Tree of Life or something like that would be there. But Tisha comes back to life, and she says, look, she's fine. George will be fine if you do this. But she's also got her own issues with, the fact that she wanted one of those rings and she couldn't get one, and, they give it to Atticus, who's just a man and not a white man either. So even to them, a black man was more important than her. And she's talking about our destinies not being, tied to our past, our relations, our great-grandfathers, our relatives. It doesn't matter. We make our own fate. I feel like that's definitely a bit of foreshadowing. So they go through this huge portal ceremony, and it's crazy. He's turning into Swamp Thing or something with one of his arms. And they start playing that Whitey on the Moon poem, which was really great, because it's kind of fitting. They're talking about all the things that are happening to the black community while Whitey's on the moon, and they're taking the power that this man has out of him while they're trying to do their own little white power thing to get immortality. So there's a lot of very strong metaphors happening here. But on the other end of the portal is Hannah. And all of a sudden, Atticus shouts out, and the spell is the whole ceremony is broken. Tony Goldwyn turns to stone, gets smashed. Everybody gets killed there. The whole place starts falling down. Tisha and Montrose and George run out, and Atticus follows the ghost of Hannah out the door as the whole place comes crashing down around him. When they showed that in the promo, I'm thinking that's end of the season stuff, not episode dos. So that whole thing's done. The Tituses, the Masons, all that crap is over. There's no portal to the Garden of Eden or immortality. The black folk live, which is like a first in any kind of horror, story. But you know that this is just the beginning. Whatever happened here is probably going to have shockwaves carry out through the rest of the season. Unfortunately, we did lose one person, and that was George. And I got to admit, I was shocked. I was really upset. I'm still upset because I like George. I like George a lot, man. And it's just yes, Michael Kenneth Williams is here, but Courtney B. Vance, man, was fantastic as Uncle George, and I hope that this doesn't mean that he's gone. Maybe they can bring him back in flashbacks. But it was really tragic. It was really tragic because they knew that if they moved him, it could kill him. But it was better than getting squashed in there, I guess, with the rest of the racist Masons trying to open portals. And so that's the end of the episode, and couldn't believe how it ended. And then you see the trailer for next week, and like I said, shockwaves. I think that everything's gonna spring. We didn't see what happened to Christina. We didn't see what happened to, William. That's his name, the whitest guy I've ever seen in my life. Definitely looked like one of the Nazi Hitler youth, but he actually seemed like he was okay. He was the one who said, just because these guys don't want you here doesn't mean that you're not like supposed to be here. Now, whether that was meant as like a threat or anything, he seemed a little more, I don't know, more than what he seems as well. So I think, over the next 8 episodes, and God knows, who knows what's going to happen in episode 3. Who knows, the moon could like crack open in two, and a freaking Cthulhu could fly out and swallow the sun. I don't know. But that's great. That's great, because this is genuinely more than just some mystery show. This is more than just some show about Jim Crow laws and racism in the 50s. This show is about a lot of stuff. And I'm enjoying every single second of it. So if you like this review, because this was just fantastic. This was just fantastic, and I can't wait to see what they're going to do next. This is absolutely... I'm floored. So that's all I got, man. That's all I got, because I got to process this a little bit more. But anyway, I'm going to have to watch it again after this is over. So if you like this review, please hit the like button, comment, share, subscribe, hit the bell for all notifications. Otherwise, we'll be back next week with episode 3. Don't forget, we've also got going on this week, next weekend, we're doing an Amazon watch party for John Travolta's The Fanatic. There will be a review afterwards live on the channel. So, have a great night. We'll see you next week. Bye. Holy crap.